Hell yeah, Lucas. I saw that. Thank you so much. Starting it off with a bang. Hello, everyone. Let's see. I think I got everything up and running. Yep, that's looking good. Fantastic. Another hot day indeed. Oh man. I did not cut my hair, no. I mean, I know that hairdressers are back in business, and so the reopening begins. But I haven't taken my chance yet, or haven't gone there yet. Speaking of reopening, kind of seems like the brunt of the lockdown situation is kind of over. I mean, in varying rates. But back here, everything is slowly starting to open up again. And things are happening again. So, I guess with that, it's, might be time to start thinking about a new name for the lockdown. In any case, next week is the start of Season 3. Very excited for that. See, I see a couple of questions right away. From Drum Operator, I'm curious about your lack of inclusion of the AJH block in the recent patches. I am actually still using the AJH quite a lot. All the bass lines and everything is full on AJH. That's happening right now. Or that has been happening lately, so... no. If I'm excluding AJH, it's not intentional. Let me put it that way. Anyway, yes. We are indeed nearing a season finale of sorts, I guess. Yeah. Let me take you guys on my trail of thought on that one. Right now, this week is... well, yeah, after this week, I am taking my entire setup to a different location. At least for one single week. And then after that, I'm kind of thinking what I'm going to do. If I'm going to put everything back in place and continue my sessions here, or if I'm going to do something else with it. But next week is going to be a very, very distinctly different session than the past couple of... well, yeah. This is day 63. So, the past 2.5 months, really. Things are gonna be really, really, really different after this. And I'm quite curious what next week is gonna bring. Marshall and MPEG stack time? Well, yeah, it's, I have been receiving gear lists these past couple of days. Yeah, there's a ton of really, really interesting stuff there. It's actually, hang on. I see a question here. Can we sponsor a complete rack walkthrough video? Actually, you don't have to sponsor it, but I'm wondering, have I actually done a complete walkthrough of everything yet? I don't think I have, right? No, I don't think I have done a full walkthrough of everything. So, and I'm kind of thinking that Right now my patch is still up and running from last week's session. But honestly, I want to change a couple of things, so I'm probably going to take down this patch. I can give you guys a full walkthrough, actually. Shall we just do that? And, meanwhile, yeah, you know what? I'm going to unplug everything. I'm going to start with a clean patch, because I have to consolidate my patching skills anyway. And then, oh, let's see. Lucas! Holy shit. You're on a roll, man. Thanks again. There's quite some interesting noises coming from there. Let me see. But there was a couple of other questions that I saw here that while I'm... let me see. Because I'm reading over a lot of stuff. And my brain is fried again today, so I am very, very slow in my response time, so sorry about that, guys. But anyway, are you going to take the stuff from your studio to the recording studio as well? Yes, I am taking as much of my system as I can, and I will actually be making a trip to my out-of-home studio to pick up some of the other things that I have lying around there, because as I've said before, this is more or less half my setup, and the other half is just, well, it doesn't fit in this room, so I didn't take it with me. But in the Visalord studio, I can bring everything, and I think just broke off my nail, so that kind of sucks. But I'm really looking forward to just working with my entire setup, so I will definitely be bringing everything. And see what I can patch up with that. I haven't even used my Expert Sleepers box, for example, and I don't think I will use it for this session. But outside of that, next week is the main goal is really gonna be to experiment with reamping quite a bit. Now, today I was talking with the audio engineer who's gonna be helping with all the recordings there. And we're kind of brainstorming about what's going to be interesting to do. And at first my idea was to just plug everything into guitar amps and stuff like that, and just kind of patch it up, like take one voice, put it into a guitar amp, and then that's going to be it. But we are thinking of doing it a little bit differently, and seeing what will be cool with that. And now the plan is to... basically, we're gonna take as many guitar amps and stuff like that as we can find. Now, Visalord has a ton of it, but we're basically gonna try and place everything in the room in an interesting setup, and we're gonna connect those amps to the bus sends of the recording desk. Visalord has an API desk to play around with, so that's going to be super interesting. And we're going to basically connect everything to the aux and to the bus and to the sends and everything, all those amps. And then from there on, we can basically start blending our wall of sound, or we can just start designing the room sound that we want to play with. There's also some massive plate verbs there and some other interesting tidbits. And we're just gonna see if we can make up some sort of interesting balance between the direct sound coming through the preamps and all the signal chains and stuff like that we can make, and the reamped sound that we're gonna be connecting to the auxes and the buses and all that stuff to liven up the sound a bit. Now, I'm super curious what it's gonna sound like. He told me that they actually have that Neumann Ambisonics head. And yeah, that's just the first thing as I was like, all right, called it. That's the one we're using for the room sound. And from there on, we just really want to see if we can make a massive depth field of sound in that Visalord room. and yeah, basically play around with it, see what's interesting. Now, I predict it's gonna be a lot of tech stuff, like well, yeah, I don't want to rush in there and just do my own patching and be done with it, because I can record plenty on my own, but I really want to figure out if we can get some super interesting sounds going. Now, this means that a big part of the day is going to be just really experimenting with sounds and listening to what it does, if it works, if we like it, and how it can be used and stuff like that. And then every day there's going to be a little bit of an actual session going on. Now, there's two things we can do with that. Like, I can either do all the preparations and stuff like that off stream and only play it concert wise, or I stream everything and you guys can follow along the entire process. Now, I am heavily leaning towards option number 2, because I think that's going to be the coolest. The only thing is that I'll probably not be interacting with the stream at all. That's kind of what I predict that's going to happen. So, yeah, still going to figure out something for that makes it a little bit more interesting for everyone. And then I'll trust you guys are going to keep yourselves busy, and I'll try and interact with the stream as much as I can, but yeah, there's no promises there. But I would like to open up everything, because I think it's going to be a very interesting process just to have a look at. Let me see. Okay, have someone watch the chat at least? Well, probably, could be. Yeah, I think that could work. Yeah, that's actually not a bad idea, to just bring someone along who can give a little bit more of in-depth information of what's going on and stuff like that. We'll figure that out. I mean, I'd like to do as much as I can with you guys, but at the same time, I just don't know how the flow of a day like that is going to be. But I do think that it's going to be massively interesting to listen to everything that's going on there. So yeah, that session is starting coming Monday, and it's going to last until Friday. And in that week time, I am hoping to get as many awesome recordings done as I can, so that the entire project can actually end up being a full EP or a record or whatever. Now, then the next one to mark in the calendar is the 16th until the 20th of June. I booked the room again. And this time I'm bringing friends. I am not saying yet. No, I'm not telling yet who it's gonna be, but it's a great friend of mine and one of the most awesome musicians I know. So I'm really looking forward to that session too. But I think it's going to be cool. And we'll work out a workflow, how to interact everything, and that we can somewhat bring everything together. It's I kind of like the 5 minutes every hour idea that you have here, Mandrill. So that might work. But we'll talk about that. Or also, I'll see what works with that. Now, I'm kind of reflecting on it's this week. It's funny because as I said, the past 63 days of lockdown really have all been dominated by the way we've done things so far. Yeah, the past 63 days has all been about our collective lockdown bubble together, and it's crazy to see how everything that happened in that time and how things have progressed, and to think about how it started and where we are right now and all the things where it's headed. It's interesting because I am continuously realizing that I'm constantly in this position where I cannot believe where we are today based on what I expected to happen like a week earlier. And every time I'm kind of thinking like I have no clue where this is going like a week from now, and it's a super magnificently chaotic process, and I'm loving every second of it. And and I really think that the fun has really only just begun. You know, there's so much cool stuff in the works right now, and it's I think some of you actually saw the ping I sent out in the Discord channel for those of you who are there, and it was a ping where I said I'm looking for copywriters and graphic designers and everything, and the thing is, I sent out that ping and an idea like, yes, all right, we're gonna do stuff, and then people said like, all right, great, we're here, and now I have a channel with like 10 graphic designers and copywriters who are sitting there like, great, what are we gonna do? And my answer was, I don't know, we're just gonna project on something, I don't know what yet. And it's on one hand, it really is like, okay, what the hell, dude? Why are you asking us here? On the other hand, it really is the way I've always worked and stuff, is to just I don't know, just shake a tree and see what falls off, and then cool things happen or not, and then it was an interesting project. And it's like right now, the one idea I had is that I really wanted to do something like a bi-weekly String Punks newsletter or something like that, and just to kind of keep everyone up to date of what's going on in the community and stuff like that, and especially for everyone who's not reading up on the Discord 24/7 like some of us are doing. It could be an interesting way of just kind of keeping up to date with everything that's happening in the community. But by the end of the day, or not even half an hour later, the idea became to almost start our own broadcast network and just make it like a full-on blog site and everything. And here I am right now organizing everything I can to just make like a full news network. And I'm not even writing articles myself. Like I don't even know if anyone is working on this right now, but I fucking love chaos, you know? That's just the only thing I know about that. So this is another one of those directions that just started it yesterday, and we'll see where it goes from here on, you know? It's maybe we'll have a full-on blog in a couple of days. Maybe it's going to be nothing. Maybe it's just really going to be one flyer for one event, and that's it. But whatever happens, it's a new something to play around with. And yeah, I think it's going to be fun. It's going to be fun, or it's going to be funny. Either way, I'm happy with it. But yeah, that's something to put out today, and then who knows what happens in a short while. Like a couple of weeks back, I just in one of those moments decided that, you know what, we're gonna do a series of vinyls, and just this week we almost finalized a full-on distribution and label deal so that all this can actually happen. And I have mix engineers on retainer right now, just finalizing the tracks and the jams that have happened over these past couple of weeks, and really getting everything up to a production standard. Like, I'm listening to mixes and just going like, holy shit, how did you ever make that from the material that I sent you, you know? And it really is, I don't know, just cool things are happening. And there's no real plan, I guess, other than to just make things and see what happens. So yeah, it's I guess that's kind of an update of where things stand on that front. Now, yeah, so you'll hear updates on this when things happen. or you won't hear updates on it. Like, for example, the blog I start, or what is it? The podcast I started a while back. I think I haven't updated it for 2 weeks by now, and that's a little painful on one hand. On the other hand, I kind of feel that the material I was posting there, it wasn't up to the quality standard that I could be posting, especially now that I have mix engineers working on it. So I'm not sure if I'm updating that as much anymore, but I will be replacing it pretty soon with some actual proper quality recordings. So things will happen, but I'm not sure if it's going to be the podcast format anymore. That being said, if there's people who are really, really sad about that, just let me know and I'll send you some some stuff. So anyway, I believe people wanted a walkthrough of the entire system. Oh, what's happening here? I need to grab my camera, which is camera 5, and we're gonna do a little walkthrough. Hang on. Man. I've been huddled way too much these past couple of days, so that's kind of killing me. But here we go. This is let me see if I can do this in a handy fashion. And we're gonna have a little rig walkthrough, and I'll see if I can tell you some of the ideas behind why I got certain things, what I expected of it. Now, obviously, I think a good place to start with all this is gonna be my Macbeth setup. Yes. This deserves a proper start. Now, this is literally the start of my entire modular. Everything modular really started here for me. You know what? I'm just gonna grab a couple of patch cables while we're at it. I have them right here. I really want one of those point of view cameras, you know? I think that would be so much fun to just have something like that and patch around with it that way, because I don't know, maybe that way people could really follow what's going on. So here, this Macbeth really is the very first thing that I ordered. It's and looking back on it, it's actually quite a miracle that it was just readily in stock. It took me a couple of months before I actually got it, but I managed to order this and got it, and it's actually the very first module I ever had. I have a second one, which is in the studio, a second pair of these, and this thing just it sounds so brutally fantastic. It's my very first experiments of working with modular was with this thing, just cross-patching it on itself and having interesting bird noises. Like here, this thing, I don't even know what it does. I have no clue what this button actually does. I know it's called cross mod 2-into-1 or something like that, but I have no clue what he actually means with it. I do know that whatever I do with it sounds so fantastic. It's just ridiculous. There's actually a whole bunch of jack sockets on this panel that I've never really used at all. Like sync, I don't use sync somehow. It's at least not on this one. I've never really done anything with sync sound, so that's actually something I should do. Same goes here for the filter. Is something that I've never really. There's a couple of things that I hardly ever used, and I'm not quite sure what I would use them for. But it is part of a sound that I really, really love, and that's basically the Macbeth pair. Now, here you'll see something, which is the random sampling. I bought this like Mark Verbos. He's a pretty good friend of mine, I guess. my last time we were in I was in Berlin. I called him up in the afternoon, like, "Hey, dude, what you doing?" And he said, "I don't know what's up." Sent him a text, and I asked him along to go indoor skydiving. And all he texted me back was, "Okay." And then next thing I know was him and some friends and Martin. It was his birthday. We're standing in a wind turbine, just floating around in one of those indoor skydive sessions. And the only thing he ever said was, "I have so many questions," but that was a ton of fun. But yeah, Verbos, he designed some fantastic things. But this one, for example, the random sampling is, again, one of those modules that I hardly ever really use. I don't actually know how to use it. And I guess I'm opening up to you guys right now about all the things I don't know about Modular. But here, this is one of those things that I thought it would be useful for me at some point, but I never really figured out how to use it in my patches or to actually do anything with it. So right now it's just sitting there. It's bad. It's very bad of me that I'm doing that. So it's I guess that's a little secret. Now here we have 2 U-folds, and I got these based on what Dice, the guy from Noisia, he let me see. Yeah, Dice, he said, like, "Dude, you need some wave folders and you're gonna love it, and get them in a stereo pair because you're gonna get some crazy ass sounds from it." And he has this very well. He actually managed to get to keep his modular purposes kind of self-contained. Like, he hasn't gone all out crazy like some other people I know. And with with those wave folders, he manages to get some of the most ridiculous monster sounds that I've ever heard from a system. And well, yeah, his entire patch flow really is just he patches one sound, and then he just starts digging, and he starts digging and digging and digging until he finds something that he really likes, and then he'll use it. And he has them in stereo. He actually used them in live setups as well. But especially in the studio when playing around with these two, and then also some phasers which he uses in audio rates, just magical things happen. So obviously I had to get some too after what I heard him do with it, and that's how I ended up with this one. Magneto, yeah, we all know about that one by now. It's I ordered that one just simply based on the fact that Strymon made it, and then I didn't plug it in for the longest time until recently. And well, yeah, you guys were there when I actually started plugging it in and playing with it. And well, yeah, that thing, I honestly don't really know how it works and what it does, but I do know that whenever I touch it in certain contexts, some very interesting things happen. So it's a very intuitive thing for me, and I love that about these effects modules and stuff like that. Is that I want to be able to twist the knob and things happen. You know, it's this directness is really something that I love about modules, and that's always something that I'm looking for in my system. Is there is only a handful of reasons and a handful of modules where I consider taking the time to fully master what's going on, because I don't want to menu dive in the middle of a patch set and whatsoever, because that's just not the wisest time to use wisest way to spend my time, especially in a live environment. So I just want things to jump on, change a couple of settings, listen to what it's doing, feel how it reacts, tweak it a little bit, and then move on to the next thing. You know, that's way more my patching style than digging into a menu. Like, let's skip the Benjamin for a second and go into this one, and really just very meticulously patch your way into one specific sound that is that you can only find if you study like a 40-page 40 edition handbook for it. And then again, I do not regret this purchase, the Shapeshifter, because this thing actually, when you do sit down with it, it takes you a long time to really properly master it. But it can be so insanely rewarding. Like, I've made some of the meanest sounds on this thing. Like, if the bro step community knew about this, then IntelliJo would be, I don't know, this would probably be able to find its way all the way to the top 3 biggest synth companies ever, because the sounds that you can make with this thing is just sheer ridiculous. But it is also one of the most complex oscillators that I've ever walked into, and definitely not something that I can use on the fly. Like, the Shapeshifter is not something I'm going to use in a jam session ever. You know, that's just not going to happen. I would sit down with a Shapeshifter and a manual and a boatload of time and patch nothing but Shapeshifter sounds, because that's the type of module that it is. I do really like this one though, but yeah, that's the hard reality of this one, is that it's mainly there to really discover sounds. It's not there for me to use in a live jam environment, because I can just not get the results out of it that I would want to. And yeah, it's it really is a beast. Let me see. Now I'm going down a bit. Here's the Triger Riot, and I actually got the Triger Riot before I got the Circadian Rhythm, I believe. And the Triger Riot is well, this is a fantastic trigger sequencer. But the main reason why I use this is for probabilistic patching. Like, everything that can be kind of random patching and stuff like that, this one really comes into play. Like, the biggest reason for that is when you go into the modes and you go to probability and you change something, you can start messing with the probability of whether or not a step is going to trigger. And now the coolest thing about that is that, well, of course you get like very random rhythms and stuff like that, but if you combine that with a clock multiplier, then you just have an endless source of unpredictable random rhythms, which are all still locked into a master time cycle. So you can sync this up with 120 BPM 4 to the floor or something, and get a boatload of super random trigger results, which all still make sense in the grand scheme of things. So yeah, that's that's basically what I really like about the Triger Riot and why I still have it in my system. But it's, once again, it's not a main sequencer for me. It's an ingredient, and yeah, I use it for weird self-patching synth organisms. Basically, it's not something where I really work with. See, question here: you ever mess with gate length on it? Yes. And isn't actually, yes. Well, yeah. Not that often, because I mostly really use it for that particular purpose. It's yeah. Is the camera making you all too nauseous right now? Because I do not have a Steadicam, so there's nothing I can do about that. What I could do, however, is doing something like this. This one here, I do use a lot. For the very simple reason that, well, yeah, what I said earlier is I like having both a high pass and a low pass on every voice. And this one has both. I can just put it in here and take it out right there. and have full shape control over. Yeah, I can kind of make my own bandpass out of this, and it really is a fantastic little thing. And I've been using it a lot on my kick drum, for example. I've also been using it on bass lines and stuff like that, but this one really is one of those, yeah, one of those modules that I really use for many things. I'll move on because otherwise I won't be doing any music by the end of this stream. The Echophone and the Reverb. I got these two at the same time. And at first I loved the Echophone, then I didn't anymore, and then I did again. It's like the Echophone, at some point I felt like the only thing I could do with it was make super noisy delays. But then Robert Lowe actually showed me that this could actually be a super clean delay if you just know how to use it. So occasionally I'm still bringing it back in, but it just doesn't make it into my staple slots right now on the VCA matrix, which is why I don't use it as often. But I'm slowly starting to bring it back in. Now the Reverb, oh my god, oh, it's like this thing, this fantastic, magnificent little. Oh. This is just wow. This is hands down the awesomest reverb I have ever laid my hands on. It's just plain fantastic. I already destroyed one, and I have two now in my rack just in case I kill another one. But this thing is, yeah, this is just wow. Don't even know what to say about this thing. It's just it's just ridiculous how much all the little things you can get out of this. Like, yeah, let me just whatever. We're actually gonna play this thing and just play just this for a little second and see what it actually does, because just if you just open it up for a bit and you hear it coming up. Yeah, quite some very harsh noises coming out of that. I don't know, I just really like this thing for many reasons. You can just trigger the whole thing and just play around with that, and that's it's yeah, this thing is just lush, and it reacts very well to just about any signal you put into it. Like, here, let's just put anything. Yeah, sure. Anyway, I'm getting carried away with that thing. You all know what the reverb sounds like, but it's just a fantastic little thing. Next on is the Jelly Squasher. I plugged it in, played with it for half an hour, and then I never touched it again. And there's no reason why I haven't touched it again. It's just that I haven't found a way to incorporate it into my patching. It's here to remind me that it's there and that it's there to play with, but it just hasn't found its way in my patches. So yeah, the Jelly Squasher, it really deserves more time and more playtime, really, because I love compressors. Like, everyone knows that I'm really all about compressors, but it is kind of getting overshadowed by this little thing over there. Let me just skip a couple of things and focus on this. It's this one I really like. This is my main squasher thingy. And most of the time I'm not even using the compressor inputs and outputs and stuff like that, but I'm just using it for this little function right here, which reads envelope, and that's an envelope output. And the envelope output basically follows the compressor settings, and if I patch this right here into a VCA, then instantly that VCA is being compressed by the same settings as anything else that's going in there. And it just follows it along. Now, this is awesome, because if I plug this into a multiple, for example, like right here, and I take out that mult signal and patch it into a VCA and into another one and into another one, then all of a sudden I have 3 VCAs following the compressor curve of one signal. So with this, technically I can compress as many channels as I have mults. So especially just for sidechain compression, really, that's what that one is all about. But it's fantastic. I really like it. But that's kind of why I haven't really used the Jelly Squasher as much. So I need to show this one some love sometime. Now, the Res 4 is one of those things that I hardly really use. It sounds awesome, but when I bought it, I didn't really know what it was. That's pretty dumb. I kind of thought that it was filters that I was buying back then. So that's why I bought the QMF 4 in the end, because this was filters and this wasn't. That being said, I did some experiments with it and you can get some super cool sounds with it. I should really do a patch maybe sometime where I use everything that I don't use the rest of the time, because that would make some sense. But the Res 4 really has a very lovely character to it, and it's one of those tricky things which I just don't really know how to bring it into my style of patching. But it deserves being played with. It really deserves more love than I'm giving it right now. So yeah, that one is probably one for a little patch experiment right there. Now, Black Noir, this one, I've said it before, is here, let me patch it in, and on its own it sounds super cool. Like, let's be upfront about that. This yeah, it just has cool character to it. There's a filter on it. There's all kinds of things that in theory like in theory this thing is super awesome. It just doesn't fit in my patch habit right now, which is ridiculous. And there's a couple of things about this that I just didn't really and there's something about the way the filter works, really. I'm not quite sure why, but there's something that just hasn't made it into my main patch flow. So again, that's one for the you know what? After this, let's play around with that stuff. Yep, it definitely does sound like very, very good hip-hop drums that you can make with this. Yeah, you know what? After this walkthrough, I'll I'll patch it up and play around with it. So that should work. Also, hello store guys. Everyone, this is something that you really need to put into your calendar. Seriously. It's let me just interrupt this little walkthrough to give you all this message. Is tomorrow at 9 p.m. European time, there's gonna be a massive talk on the store on the store channel, and that talk really could be super interesting. Here, it's people on this one. It's you got Drumcell, you got Luke Slater, and Richard Devine as a guest with Speedy J, and they're gonna be talking about I don't know what, but just that combination of people has me just frothing for more. You know, it's I'm super excited about that. So yeah, everyone, you should definitely tune in there. That's gonna be tomorrow over at the store channel. You need to be there. I have it linked on in the Discord. It's in the featured announcements. Let me see. Maybe someone can link the video. It's at the store channel. It's definitely worth going there. I think Irmak is linking it for everyone. So yeah, y'all should definitely go there. Anyway, where was I? Yeah, here, Tip Top drums, just fantastic. This is one of those 909. It's not really a clone, but it's really a design based on the 909 Rimshot. It sounds fantastic. Oh, dude, so much love for you guys, store. It's you can have all the voluntary plugs in the world. You guys are doing good things, and that needs all the support and love that you can get. So, fuck yeah. Anyway, the Rimshot and the Mutant Machine. This one is actually one of those things I bought it based on the Venetian Snares demo, and you guys should really watch that Venetian Snares demo because it's just hilarious. Like when he made a video on all the sounds you can make out of this thing under the alias Snarold Snarington, and after that I was just sold because it sounded super awesome and the video was super weird. So so yeah, look it up, the Venetian Snares demo on the Mutant Machine. You're gonna love it. Well, yeah, Mutamix was one of those things that I bought when I needed more mixers, and it's there. Symphonion. Yes. The most recent edition. I got this just 2 weeks ago, and it was fantastic. It really is a fantastic thing, but I've spent a lot of time on this thing on stream, so by now you all know this one and why it's in my rec. But the Symphonion is just straight up awesome. What is the Symphonion? Yeah, you know what? Let me move over. The Assimilator. This one needs more time. I need more time with this thing. It's like I'm looking up the proper guides and stuff like that to play with this one. Once again, it's on my B list of modules that I'm not using a lot. I'm realizing that I'm saying that a lot for this session. So I can't really say a lot about this right now, but I do know that it's awesome, and it's one of those things that I was waiting for a long time for it to come out, and then I got it, and didn't really glue with it yet, but it's definitely a fantastic thing. So we're gonna be experimenting this for a bit, definitely. Now, the Era 301 is yeah, this one has a very special place for me. It's I don't use it often. You know, let me just step over my cables here. I don't use it often, this Era 301, but it always manages to do things that I cannot do in any other way. Like the 301, I did the entire, I did a big part of the, what is it? The John Hopkins cover video I did with Ear 301 live sampling and stuff like that in a massive loop. Lucas. Dude. That is massive. Lucas Pearson, thank you so much. That is just sick. Here, hang on. Let me just, for that one, hey, dude. Fuck yeah. Thank you so much. Anyway. Yeah, where was I? So, the sound computer. This one is one of those things that you can design so many insane things with this. It's super deep. It's kind of like, and that's kind of one of the problems that I have with it, is that it's a modular within a modular. Like, if you don't know if you guys can read this, but here, just let me just show everything, all the things that you can do in this. Like, you can do all kinds of live sampling, granular stuff, recording and looping, delays. There's filters. There's all kinds of stuff. Like, basically, this thing just goes on. And outside of that, you can load all kinds of custom machines and everything that people have made for this. And the whole menu structure just goes on. It goes super deep. And this is almost like a full modular system in one module. Which also makes it a little bit dangerous in a way, and at the same time, it's also the thing that I talked about earlier, is I cannot use this just randomly in a jam. I can use it when I have a predetermined plan in a way, but I cannot sit down with this and go like, oh no, let me plug in that thing and just be done with it. No, it's this one deserves time to just sit down, and you have a day, you grab a cup of coffee, and your cat is spinning away somewhere in a corner, and this is what you play with. Now, sometimes things in this thing happen that all of a sudden change everything, like the reason, like the whole clocking thing that we did in the last couple of weeks, is, yeah, the whole clocking experiment is in large part thanks to this thing, in combination with this thing. Now, here, the Ear 101, this is definitely like one of the most awesome modular. Here, let me just yes, here, this actually is the very first Ear 101 that I bought. This module, I used it so much that let me see, well, basically all of these, that might be fun to patch up sometime, but I have a lot of sequences just patched and loaded and saved up on these slots. I bought a second one of the Ear 101 when I started skipping steps too much. Turns out I can fix it with a firmware update. Still haven't done the firmware update, but I should. But this thing just changed everything. Changed everything for me about my entire way of patching. It's like, before I had the Ear 101. Hang on, this is, let me just find what I'm looking for. Cables and stuff. This is not this type of thing you do with a camera on a stand. Like, I'm literally holding one of those camera stands in my hand right now and moving around with it. But you see this thing right here? Let me see if I can show you guys properly. There. That was my main sequencer for the longest time. And I did all kinds of... I tried doing polyphonic patching on this. It's 3 rows of sequencing right there. And it sounds awesome, but it took me a week to patch something. Now, what I used that thing a week for, I could do on in like basically 5 minutes on this thing. And that just flipped everything for me. It was all of a sudden like, okay, so now we're doing polyphony. And I did get the 102 with it, because with the 102, all of a sudden you can do interesting things like swapping parts and change your reset points and everything like that, and just really make song sections and go into a deeper song structure. It's all of a sudden you have... this is basically Ableton in a modular. In a module format. And it's 4 tracks, 2 CV tracks and 1 gate. per track there is, yeah, so you have your 4 tracks, you have potentially 99 patterns you can play with. You can stuff 99 steps in one pattern, and every step can be 99 pulses length. And you can save them on an SD card like this thing right here, you know? So it's, yeah, that was really just, okay, here's the end game of sequencers for me. Obviously I got 2. Let me, ugh, what the hell? There we go. So there's my second one. And here's the light paint thing that I bought when I saw Chris Beck's Rubberneckers video, and it was like, oh my god, I want to be able to do that, and I never was able to do that. So yeah, let me see. See a question here, is the issue with the Ear 101 button fixed now? Not yet, but that's because I'm lazy and I haven't completed the full update procedure yet. Hang on, let me do something, because this is gonna make my life so much easier. Oh, fantastic. Okay, I now no longer have to hold this entire thing to move around this camera. Such a mess in this room. Let me see. What was the old sequencer? The old sequencer was let me see. The old sequencer was Oberkorn. Here, let me show this thing. I mean, it's pretty magnificent. Let's have a look. There we go. Here. This was the old sequencer, and it's pretty awesome because you have 3 CV channels. Here, let me see. Is this in focus? Yeah, kinda. You got CV channel A, B, and C, and they all have what is it? A and B have glide, 16 steps, and each step you can decide if it goes to output gate X or I, Y, or X and Y, and that's it. Really, super simple, super easy. I have 2 of them, but someone borrowed the other one, and I can't remember who. So, rip. Anyway, let's have a look. It's not quantized. No, it's not quantized. It's completely free flowing voltages, basically. Hang on, give me 1 second. I'll be back in a second. I'll leave you with something nice to look at. Here, stare at this for a minute. Give me a sec. Fucking hell, parched. Anyway, there we go. This here, we are entering my live touring sets. This is when I am flying. I learned the hard way that I cannot actually fly with these massive cases. So I have this setup, which is 2 Amalgamate cases, 1 and 2. And these I can literally just throw into the cargo hold, and it will almost always reach its destination in one piece. This is the 4 Metropolises that you all see, 1, 2, 3, and 4. And the cool thing about this really is, when playing live, this is how you make a melody. Flop. And you're done. You want something else, and you do flop, and you're done. And It's hardly ever that you need to do anything else than that, and sometimes you do when you just kind of fiddle around with it a little bit, and then you can move on straight away to something else, because the exact melody itself, 9 times out of 10, is definitely not as interesting as how you play it, and that's very conveniently one module away from it, which most of the time is my filter playing and stuff like that. Yes, flooping like a mouse. You see the same thing up here. This is actually normally the right side of my setup, and this one is the left side of my setup. And sometimes I have an Ear 101 crammed in here, but right now both of them are right there, and I have 2 of these mutable things. We have, let me see, the AJH series. Let me actually just look at the correct one for that, because here you can actually see the full voice. This is basically just a Mini Moog Model D. And it sounds fantastic. It's, oh yes, I see, I see Piff Puff is back in Twitch. Yes, fantastic. Oh, that's good. There you go, Twitchies. Anyway, this is basically just a Mini Moog Model D. And this entire thing sounds fantastic. It's super, super, super cool. And I have 2 oscillators in this patch setup. Usually I have them all 3 together. But yeah, this voice is basically the last couple of weeks you've all been listening to this doing all the bass lines and all the bass parts and stuff like that, and it's just sounding fantastic. I have the same one up there, but 1 oscillator less, which in practice means that I just am really missing 1 oscillator. So it's I don't use that for it as much. Lately I've been using this filter to sum my drums before I'm sending it off to a filter. Let me see. How big of a difference does the third stack of oscillators make? It does make a difference. And the difference is, it's definitely not as big a difference as going from 1 to 2 oscillators, which is why most of the time, 2 oscillators works fine. But when you insert the 3rd oscillator in there, it is just making everything, it just melds it together even more. It becomes this lovely, just cream sauce in a way. It is it just gives you even more. It gives you more fatness, more body, and more heat to play with, basically. And it's I'll do another 3 voice bass line soon again, and then we can have a listen to it, because it really sounds awesome. It's let me see. Now the AJH VCAs, I'm using them a lot. Like always, I'm using them in a pair for the bass line again. Like I literally just patch this entire thing in this direction. Like 2 oscillators going into the filter. Envelope 2 output is going into the, what is it, frequency CV input, not in the 1 volt per octave. Tried that once and that didn't go well, but the frequency CV input, and then you can play around with this, which is awesome. It all goes into the VCA, and as you can see here, what is it? Audio 1 crammed to 10. Master crammed to 10. Just basically everything here is just full on open. I have it set to what is it? To its overdrive function. Same thing on the filter. Everything is set to massive overdrive, and it just gives you this super insane big fat warmth and crunch. So I really like this voice. Now the Raven that you see here is I basically bought it because Mike Beam, he is he's a fantastic designer. Like, he really makes some awesome things, and he, for example, made this one, the pecking order. Where are you? Right here. This is the pecking order, and we designed this one together. And he had a Kickstarter for the Raven, and I was looking for new synth voices for the Holland Festival project. So I managed to get 10 of these Ravens for a pretty good deal. So you have 4 more Ravens right here. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then you have 5, 6, and then I have 4 more in a different case. I should be using these a lot more than I'm doing right now. I'm gonna say that right now up front, is that I haven't really explored the full potential of this thing yet. Every time when I play with it, it sounds fantastic, but I've never really explored it to the fullest extent. But I have 10 of these, and yeah, they sound fantastic. They're super cool. It's the only thing I really find funny about these is 2 things. Basically, one is it doesn't have an octave switch, and 2, it doesn't have an envelope, which is probably why I'm not using them as much as I would like to. Because octave switches are the things I play around with the most of the time. And just having an integrated envelope would really complete this thing for me. But as is, it still is a fantastic voice. So yeah, this thing just sounds fat as hell. This one here, the Modcan Dual delay. Up until recently, this was my favorite delay. Recently, I am starting to get increasingly frustrated by this thing. It's not giving me what I want anymore, and I don't know what it is. Like, I have to I really need to just spend a full day playing around with that dual delay again sometime, because there's something about it that is not clicking for me anymore. But but it could also be that I'm just feeding it wrong. So I'm gonna be playing with this again, and just stop being lazy and just really dig into it. My God, you know what happens when you talk so much? Your throat starts messing up. So anyway, elements, sure. Everyone knows the elements. They sound fantastic and they're cool. Use these on things like Reunion a lot. The whole that's basically all elements. Oh, hang on. I am being a silly dum-dum. Silly sausage. Where are we? Right here. This is what we need. Do I actually have a battery pack here? No, I don't. Oh, maybe I do. Is this thing full? That would be nice. Give me a second. Only one way to find out. And yes! Fantastic. Okay, so I have a full battery pack. That's pretty decent. Yeah. Here we go. So yeah, the element sounds cool. And it works. What do we see here? See a question here. Do you have the Atlantis? I do not have the Atlantis. The Atlantis one module that I just never picked up. No real reason. I know it's fantastic, but I just didn't buy it. So that's not in my rack. Now here is some Qubit filters. I got this for the Holland Festival project where I needed a lot of filters in one go. So this was really just, hey, there's 4 filters and this much HP. Let me just get it. Marble Physics, a module that I am not using at all. Could be super cool. Thought it did something, ended up doing something else. Didn't really use it afterwards. Clouds, fantastic. Is definitely a very interesting, very interesting effects unit. Quite particular about the way it wants to play along with things, so it doesn't always fit into my plans, but it sounds awesome. And let me see. Now here we have, again, you wouldn't really say it, but again, this module deserves this. Oh. Ugh, this module, it has opened up so many things for me. But simply, there's no real reason for it, but just this, the fact that I can plug in 4 sounds and output them to 4 different sources by using these buttons is the most useful tool in my rack. This really ties together my entire effects section. This is, yeah. Just fantastic. So good. Yes, anyway, so that thing is beautiful. And for everyone who wants to really work or work in something like an aux send section, this is how you do it. You put in 4 sounds, and every sound you patch it into a multiple, like so. And this multiple basically goes to the direct signal going out. So this is your dry signal. This is going to be your wet signal. It goes into here. This you send to your effects, and all of a sudden you have a bus section in your modular. So that's why this thing is so incredibly brilliant, is that it plays well with everything, and it's absolutely 100% a staple module when it comes to live patching and doing effects channels and stuff like that. This is, this is a legendary tier module in my eyes, just for that reason. I don't even know if it's the best sounding module or whatever. I don't even care. It does exactly what I want it to do, and it's always there. So it's it's perfect. Let me see. Oh yeah, here is a Mungo D0. I can't play around with it right now because apparently my 5-volt reel is not working, and the D0 doesn't have an onboard 5-volt converter, which kind of sucks. But it is the most complex delay that I have. It's crazy. I have no clue exactly how it works, and 9 times out of 10 I hate it, and the one time that I do hear it, it justifies not selling it because it is just fantastic. It's super, super, super cool. But yeah, it's a tough one. It really, really is a tough one. It's one of the most arrogant delay modules I've ever played with, because it never does what you want it to do. It always does its own plan, and you always end up giving it you always end up saying like, well, sure, I guess you were right all along, and it just sounds awesome. But it's yeah, quite the love-hate and occasional hate going on there. So yeah, some closing notes about the elements, since you guys are not done with that one yet. It sounds awesome, and I really love the physical modeling sound of it. The problem that I have a lot with mutable instruments sounds is that they always sound unmistakably like mutable instruments, and it's very hard to make it sound like anything else. And that is a bit of an issue for me when I want things to blend together more than that. And it's yeah, that makes its use a bit too limited for me in a way. But at the same time, it's an incredibly deep module, and you can get some crazy some crazy sounds out of it. And especially back when it first released, it was the only one of its kind that could sound so crisp and clean in a digital realm. It just sounded awesome. So it's a very special module in that sense. And there's a ton of things once again that I have never that I've never really used on this. But yeah, at the same time, I'd never managed to break it out of its pattern, and that's a bit of a shame to me. Do you use the external input at all? I did, and I played around with that and got some super cool things with that. Still, it always sounded like an Elements to me, and that's that being said, I do love it for its element sound, and that was and that's what makes it what makes it very good at the same time, because sometimes that is exactly the sound that you need. But it's just, you'll always recognize the elements in every patch that you hear anywhere. It's that's just the way it works. Same with rings, by the way. Sounds awesome. But yeah, it's too much. Yeah, I don't know. Again, it's a love-hate thing. It's a fantastic module. Don't get me wrong. I really love what it does. But it's too much of a signature sound to it. So yeah. This one, I had a ton of fun with this, and this is actually the first time I met Dieter. Dupfer was in LA, and he had just released this Ratchet controller, I believe. Oh no, this wasn't in LA. This was actually the second time when this was at Super Booth, and he had just released this Ratchet controller, and I was just going apeshit over this thing because it just sounds so cool. It's yeah, so much fun with this thing. Oh, fantastic. Let's move on. Yeah, we got the Metropolis. This one here. Another Raven. You'll find Ravens everywhere after this video. Let me see. There's another Ratchet controller right there. Cables can go. Here is a full drum section. This is all the drums I always use for everything. And hang on, let me get a bit more light, because I have a feeling that everything got a little bit darker. Did it? Yeah, it did. Hang on. No. As I've said a bunch of times, this room is too small and is a mess. There we go. That's better. Here we go. So yeah, here, the drum section. Fun fact, I sold my 909 to buy more drum modules. And I did the same with my Lin drum, because I wasn't using my 909 or my Lin drum anymore, and was only playing around with my drum modules. And I don't regret it. I mean, well, sometimes I regret my 909 because that thing, it played like a lot of fun. But I would never pick a 909 over this, and I would never pick a Lin drum over this. This is a workflow unmatched by anything from the old days. Just it's a bold statement, but I know for sure that I can make a cooler drum machine with modules than I would ever be able to get out of a 909 or an 808 or any of the other things. And they sound awesome, that's for sure. They don't sound 3,000 euros awesome. And that basically for 3,000 euros, I could buy this and all this, and get all the sounds that I ever wanted. So I'm very happy with that. Is this right here, this BD9 sounds super mean and very dirty. It's too like sometimes it's too gritty, and it takes a little getting used to. There's a lot of spots on there that are not useful. Like the settings are the setting range just feels a bit too wide for the range of sounds that are actually useful with it. But at the same time, when you do hit the spot with it, it's just, I mean, this over a proper sound system is just earth-shattering. I mean, yeah, that's this is my Berghain kick, and I love it too much for that. Same for the clap, same for the hi-hats. This thing is just basically, every time when you hear just a noise hiss going on my sound, it's me just opening up the decay like this and just having it wash out. So these three modules, just, you have kick, snare, hi-hat basically, or kick, clap, hi-hat, snare. The symbol here, this is like for when I do miss the 909 sound. Well, here it is. This is the 909 ride, this is 909 hi-hats and open hats. So this sounds fantastic. Let's see, some questions popping in here. Let me see. If I've tried the Yomox modules. I have tried the Yomox modules, and they sound massive. And there's actually no reason why I don't have them. Because Yomox kick, the Yomox bass thing, you can get some big sounding kicks from that, and that's pretty damn awesome. So, definitely worth it. Now these two are getting very close to the range of this. I mean, not quite yet. It's still a little bit on the side that I recognize its sound more and more. It's kind of like the Elements result from it. But in my setup right now, I definitely can do this. So fantastic. The Chimera is another one of those things. It sounds super cool. The Fracture is the one that really, like like having your breakfast bowl full of Legos, you know, and just slightly crunching it. That's this sound. It sounds fractured, and I love it. It's just plain wow, you know. But at the same time, it is a little bit on the in the range where the sound becomes a bit signature. So what I would actually love, you know what, Bill or any of the WMD guys, if you're listening, I want a Fracture XL. If you make that, like, all of these panel functions combined, basically, like a Fracture with like 2 extra rows of little features and functions on it. If you make that, then I'm gonna be all over it like this. Seriously, that's just what it needs. You know, a Fracture XL is probably the best thing that would ever happen to the world of drum modules. I would be all over it. So seriously, consider it. Too much love for it. Anyway, let me move on. This thing is once again one of those awesome utilities. It's a little bit small, and it's always hidden away, but it basically is just an octave knob and another one, and it's perfect. That's all I need it for. Is sometimes I even just stack my octave knob on top of my octave knob. You can never have enough octave knobs. So this is good. Oh, piff puff, hell yeah, I love my machines. So let's have a look. The Triger is one of those things that I basically use just as a switch every now and then. I've never sequenced a proper beat on this thing, or nothing I've ever done on this sounded good at all. It's not like I'm basic or anything, like I don't know how to do that stuff. But I do know that if I do this, and it flips a switch on my sequential switch, that I'm happy. So that's why this one is here. This module, this is my only DIY project ever. And it's also conveniently the only LFO in my live rig. So the only reason I have this module in here is to move around my hi-hats over here. And I was super proud of this module because I soldered everything myself. It's a Ginkgo LFO. And I soldered everything, and then I plugged it in, and there was a big puff of white smoke, and it turned out I had reversed one of the ICs on it, and that was the end of it. But luckily Jan Willem was right there to help me out and replace the IC for me. And I've used it every time afterwards. Little tap tempo LFO with a sync button on it, fantastic. Sync on LFOs is just beautiful. And it's small, so that's good. Now here, the QMF4, I've used this thing so much, like so much that I actually already broke the first channel. This one is not functional anymore. And these 3 channels, like you can see the layer of grime and dirt and just blah. This thing's really just it's like I pedaled my way through the swamps with this thing. It's horrid. But that's how much I love this thing, and that's how much I use it. Like, this is all basically just finger grease. All of this. It's but that's how fantastic it is. Like, what is it? Kick, bass, any kinds of drums, and play around with it. You know, that's just how it works, and it's super cool, and I really like it. Now, I'm not gonna do this with it because the buttons are too small. I'm very particular about that. Like, I need, if these buttons were, maybe I'll do it myself. Like, if these buttons were slightly bigger, something like this, I'd be super happy with it. But as it stands now, it's too often that I don't really find my way in it. And also, I broke this first channel, and that's why I'm not gonna do this. Okay, maybe just a little bit. Maybe a little bit more. Moving on. All the way. All the way. So much love for this thing. Circadian Rhythm. This thing is so fantastic and so cool that it pains me that it's not a finished thing. Ugh. Like, seriously. If the Circadian Rhythm had a second row of outputs, which was accent triggers, you know, just one more row like this, sitting right here, so I could plug an accent into the accent input of its own tip-top modules, and do a double tap on one of the steps, like going 1, 2, and then it highlights into an accent button, this would be the most insane drum sequencer out there. The fact that there is not a single modular company out there right now who has a double tap for accents drum sequencer yet is mind-boggling to me. Just how hard can it be to just go like, I want this kick, but I want it to have one more button press and then it has an accent on it. Why not? Where are all the accents? Where are the accents on the drum sequencers? We need them, you know? And I'm not going to get a second Circadian Rhythm just to do some accents. So But if this Circadian Rhythm, if there is any plans for a Circadian Rhythm 2, please have it, let it have a second row of outputs. Oh, hang on, that's my camera battery, which kind of crapped out. Let me fix it. Ta-da! There we are again. Okay. But let me see. Does the Erica drum sequencer have the double tap function? Gah. Am I an idiot? The Erica drum sequencer has a double tap. Okay, in that case, forget what I said. The Erica drum sequencer has the double tap, and I actually have the Erica drum sequencer, so there's no reason why I didn't know about that. Oh my god. Okay, that's just silly willy little sausage me. I will wear the cone of shame. So Erica Synths, you guys are doing fantastic. And I'm gonna study the Erica Synths manual and figure out how to do it properly. So let me actually get into that. If it does have the double tap function for accents, then that's fantastic. But I'm just saying, Gur, Erica Synths has a double tap function. You should too. Do it. Moving on. This is where problems start happening, because literally this is the maximum length of my cable. So this is going to be oh, what's that? Bit of an issue moving forward, but we're going to deal with it. Expert sleepers, a whole bunch of it. Used it for one project. 2 actually, and both those projects completely justified having this entire box. Outside of that, I cannot jam with this. It's like laptops are not my standard workflow. I get it just doesn't work for me. It's I installed VCV the other day to play around with it, and I just got lost within 2 modules. Just how do I patch things and everything? It was I felt so ridiculous. So I just cannot get jiggly with it. That's what it comes down to. Exactly like Dav Ambient is saying, I can't get jiggy with it. No, exactly. So let's have a look. But the Expert Sleepers box, when you know what you want from it, then this thing is insane. This is just 64 CVs and gates. As you can see here, this is I got the 8 gate expanders and the 7 CV expanders to get 64 CVs and 64 gates out of it, and it worked fantastic. But in my live workflow so far, it's not working for me yet. I wanted to play with this during this lockdown period, but I actually didn't. I haven't done it yet, so that's a bit of a pain. But maybe I should start playing with it a little bit. Now here is the rest of my AJH stuff. Yeah, we know by now that I love AJH modules. 2 more oscillators, another filter, another oscillator, another oscillator, another oscillator, ladder wave filter. This one, a couple of jams back, had a very prominent role with its in-wave functions. This thing can get some crazy sounds and can make a single oscillator go from boring to super cool. So this was a super interesting one. This VCA, I have 4 of these for a total of 20 VCAs. Sounds fantastic. The only downside to it is that I have the one where in exponential VCA or logarithmic VCA mode, it bleeds. So up until recently, all my VCAs were always linear, also for audio and stuff like that. But well, it still worked for me. I got the phaser and the wave swarm and the sub bass ring mod, and I hardly ever use them, to be very honest, because I don't really like phasers somehow, and I'm still looking for the one phaser sound that's really gonna wow me in a way. But every time when I patch something in with a phaser, I just end up going like, but no. But maybe that's just because I haven't made the proper chain with it yet. So it's I don't know. Wave Swarm is super awesome, but I need more time with it, or more time. I need more. I need to make more hours with it, basically. And same goes for the ring mod. Like, they still need to creep their way into my patch flow. For some random reason, there's another 808 hats right here. This one, the cloud generator, super awesome. I actually saw this on a Deadmau5 video back in 2012, I think, or 2011. And I thought, like, hey, that thing is super cool, let me buy it. And, well, yeah, definitely does some interesting stuff. But, don't really use it that often. It's a very fat sounding oscillator. I see some people who remember the Deadmau5 video I'm talking about. Exactly, that Deadmau5 video is the one why I bought this. I kind of suspect that Kink named his cloud generator track after this module. I'm not sure, but knowing that he's a modular junkie just like the rest of us, it would make sense, because it's a cool name and a very cool track, might I add. But yeah, the cloud generator sounds super fat. You can make 8 oscillators into this thing and spread them out and go wild with it, so that's cool. Borg Filter, super cool. SEM20 filter is the only filter I know where I can stack in an entire chord at once and it doesn't suck. So usually for everything I take a single filter for a single voice. With the SEM filter, it's the only one where I cram in multiple voices at once and it sounds good. Well done, you. Not too much. Quad ADSR, Coma Vectral filter. I guess this was my first sponsored module ever. I don't really call it sponsored, but this was a gift from Wouter. And, yeah, not gonna lie, it sounds super dirty. Very dirty, but it sounds awesome. And I really like that. Super bright white light behind it. Which I believe some people have hacked it so that it actually bumps around with an LFO. Here we go. This is 4 Ravens. This is 3 quad VCOs. So this is 16 voices in one box, basically. This entire thing, like so, basically is this I needed for the Holland Festival project, and I had 4 boats like this one, so 16 voices in every case, and that made up a total of 64 voices to play this massive composition with 64 speakers and stuff like that in conjunction with this thing. So that worked fantastically, and I still have it in that configuration. This one here, the PH8, is very cool for some things. I'm gonna admit something. I am not blindly convinced about Schweiman modules. I know that they're super cool, but they're not the coolest modules in the formats. Schweiman sounds fantastic, and it's super dedicated, but it doesn't always feel like an instrument for me. And I kind of had that same thing with this one, which sounds super awesome, but kind of had my hesitation thing. Burn him! Please don't kill me. But Schweiman is fantastic and super tight and does everything super correct. But it is nah. There's something nah about it in a way. And yeah, for sure he is one of the oldest builders in the or what is he? He's one of the first guys who really adapted the formats, and it sounds fantastic and it all checks all the boxes and everything works and stuff like that, but I don't get interesting. It's not the module that gets me the most interesting results, and that's why 9 times out of 10 the Schweiman modules are the ones that don't find their ways in my patches. I don't know. I do very religiously buy any Schweiman module that I see. Like, it's always one of those things that I definitely jump on and bring in and go with. Always to see if it's gonna glue with me this time. But it always ends up in my series of modules that I don't use. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what to say about it. It's either I'm completely missing the point, or there's something else going on there. But yeah, I don't know. Yeah, that's yeah. I guess that bombshell is something that I needed to say. But I mean, all the love in the world for Schweiman and everything that he's built, because he's done massively important stuff. I feel like I actually have to defend my position about not being 100% over the moon with his gear, which is weird because to me it really feels like Duper on steroids, and even then, I do feel the enthusiasm for everything that Duper builds. But that's mainly because it doesn't cost what a Schweiman module costs and definitely gets the job done. So it's that might be a factor in it. But yeah, it's like, in all honesty, if you're sitting at the top price range in the modular game, then I'm expecting to be wowed. And no. It's like, this is that module gets me 2 of these, and then I'd rather have 2 of these. But that's just kind of me. I mean, again, it's not my intention to completely burn you. Sorry about that. Anyway, I think on that note, oh no, wait, here, the trigger sequencer. This thing, the trigger matrix, I had a ton of fun with this. And this is actually, yeah, this is actually one of the most fun trigger sequencers out there, in my opinion. And every time when I end up at the super booth or one of the other big booths, I always find my way eventually, ultimately, to the Doopfer stand, just to kind of escape all the excessive noise and the blinking lights and stuff like that. And I always get drawn to this, to Dupfer's massive tower standing there, and end up jamming away for hours on end on these trigger sequencers. And I'm always amazed by how much I can get out of these super basic little things. It really is fantastic. So that being said, up until recently I wasn't using this one as a staple in my setup because I already had the Circadian Rhythm and the Erica Synths trigger sequencer. But now that I found out that this one goes so well with that one, I know I have to do this. Because yes, this is legit. Yeah, I feel like this is gonna be one of my new staples. I love this. I really, 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 really do. Anyway, so with that, I have done a full walkthrough of my current setup. Almost, I guess. You guys have seen the room, right? Like, this is how big it is. Yeah, there's some... These speakers sound fantastic. I tried to bring them home to plug them in. And then figured out that back at home there's not really a proper way to get these to sound good without completely remodeling the entire living room, so didn't place them. Is there anything else in here? Well, yeah, I have obviously this, the SSL desk, and this is what you always hear me doing everything on. 16 channels, everything goes directly from this into there. These are the API 505 DI modules. I put them on a -20 dB pad to have a little bit of headroom to gain with. Right now I'm recording on this RME box right here in the back because my Burl interface broke, and sending everything back through this SSL G bus compressor, and that's basically my stereo mix the way you guys are hearing it. And well, yeah, that's my patch, I guess. So hang on, give me 1 second. Gonna have one more sip of water, and then I'm gonna spend the next 2 hours wisely, I guess. Give me 1 sec. So, that was my full, my full current studio walkthrough here back at home. The full setup, well, yeah, the other half of my rig right now is back at home, or what am I saying? Not back at home, but in the studio. But I guess this was a good walkthrough to show you guys what I've been playing with these past couple of days. I realize I've never actually done a full setup walkthrough. I hope this was somewhat welcome or helpful. This is only half? Yeah, this is half of the setup. Hang on. Let me... Confessions and bombshells, yeah. Shit. I mean... I feel guilty for saying that stuff now. You know, it's like, because by all accounts, the Schweiman is fantastic gear, absolutely, and it's probably way up there in the top companies in the Eurorack game. But at the same time, it feels I don't know. It is not my number one. Let me put it that way, I guess. I don't know, I'm just getting everything back in a workable position so that we can... Ugh. There we go. And is that it? Is that it? How much of the system are we seeing right now? Yeah, I guess that's about it. That's good. And yep, there we go. Nice. So, now what do we do? Let's jam a little bit, I guess. The mustache is gone indeed. Don't fret personal tastes, you're meant to have those. This is definitely true. Like, there's probably a lot to say for some completely different stuff. Like the same thing as, with, for example, with Buchla. I've tried playing with Buchla quite a few times, but I just don't glue with it. And then the times when I do get some cool stuff with it, I just... oh, what? Jesus. Lucas, again. What the hell? I'm just seeing this just now. But... And again, here... Danish Rancher? You guys, what the hell? That's insane. Head's absolutely spinning. Thank you so much for the detailed and honest walkthrough. My pleasure, man. It's I realize this was a long this one was long overdue, and I should have done this way earlier. So I'm sorry it took so long, basically, but nice, and can't wait to see what's next. Reamp week, hell yeah, reamp week. That's gonna be it. Dudes, thank you so much for the support today. This is, I think, by now, this last weekend plus this one combined completely paid for, well, almost paid for the entire week coming up, which means that I can almost plan ahead for a third session week, I guess. So you guys, thank you so much. That's fantastic. Super cool. I need a donation flashing light. Yeah, indeed I do. Actually, it's because half the time I miss it when it's happening because I'm just sucked into whatever I'm doing. And I'm only looking at the screen from... I'm giving it side-eye every now and then, so I miss a lot of it. But yeah, 3 sessions. That would be fantastic to have a 3rd session going on. I think that could be super cool. Now, maybe I should call a drummer for another session. Get something going there. That could be cool. But yeah, this first session is gonna be next week, and then let's see how that goes. And man, may have to place an air horn in the Vislord studio for. So yeah, we wanted to play with the Black Noir. That was a thing. And I'm gonna patch in I'm gonna do my clock patch again because that's something I need to practice with. Just to memorize how it worked again. There we go. Here, I'm gonna set my camera back to switching mode so that we get some cool stuff to look at. Yeah, what I was thinking about playing with the drummer sometime, what could be cool about that is, well, of course you have conventional drummers who just do their kick snare breaky time and have fun with it. But I also know some drummers who can really make that instrument sing, if you know what I mean. So, which really takes it to the next level. And I think that could be an interesting combination to get something like that going. Make a patch with mutable instrument and sway modules only. Oh shit. There we go. And that goes there. Let me see. Okay, that's good. My patch is gonna be... Where are you? The Hertz-based clock with its gain being set by input A1. Get rid of the pause button. I want that clock to go in here. There we go. Gain all the way up. And you can multiply it by 2. And CVB. There we go. Okay, fantastic. I have my... does Michel Schout still drum? Yeah, hell yeah, he does. Michel is still a brilliant drummer. Like, he is... He actually has a massive job position right now as the head A&R at Sony, I believe. And he's absolutely killing it. Like, he's been really doing some great work there. But he's also still an amazing drummer, so that could actually be fun to play with him sometime. He also did a lot of things with Too Many DJs, for example. But there was actually a guy that a friend of mine was talking about. Let me look that up, because that dude is in my sights now. Have you guys ever heard of Julian Sartorius? Let me just type that, because this guy, Julian, this guy here, that could be a super interesting guy to play with sometime. He is, he's pretty wild. But then again, my old drummer Bram Hawkins, Bram Hawkins, he would laugh so hard if they hear me saying it this way. He would be a ton of fun to play with too. We actually started a band some time back, and we only made one song. Well, actually we did 2 gigs. One was him on a darbuka and me on a trumpet, which was the best paid gig we ever had. And then we made one song together, and we became an electro trash metal collective, just the 2 of us, and we called ourselves the Jolly Joppers, basically. And we made one song that we never rehearsed again. We played live with that one song, and we trashed everything, and it sounded super, super awesome, but then we never played again. But the Jolly Joppers, I think we were just too far ahead of our time. Road was not ready for us. It wasn't meant to be. But maybe that could be an interesting session, to just go and do all-out electro trash metal for a week and see what happens with that, because that could be super awesome. This is the trigger inputs. Electro trash metal is so 2025. Oh my god. I've never heard anyone be smug about things in the future being outdated. Like, that's so 2025. Oh, fantastic. I love it. Oh, fuck. Alright. Okay, so that needs to happen now. It's, that's snare drum. This is a closed hi-hat. What do I have here? Does this actually play when I start it? This does play when I start it. My cat just walked in. Buddy. Hey, dude. Come on. He's been having some problems. Here we go. Hey, dude. This is Buddy. He's not happy to be here at all right now. Here. Go away. Up. Go. So that's it. Yep. His name is Buddy. And I have a second cat, and his name is Wolfie, named after Wolfgang. Wolfie is absolutely insane. Like, I think he's missing a chromosome or 2, but he is he has like no facial expression. You know how cats always have a character of sorts and they are elegant and stuff like that? Well, not for Wolfie. He's just blank-eyed and a little bit cross-eyed. He doesn't meow. He just straight up screams. Seriously. And but he's a super cute cat too. Like, I love him. And then there's Buddy, which is the orange cat you guys just saw. And yeah, that's actually Natalie's cat, but I think he secretly loves me more. Don't tell her. And Buddy is fantastic. So anyway, we had this going on. It's a workflow thing, I guess. I'm not quite sure what BPM we are at right now. Let me make this rhythm a little bit more interesting. Slightly less wonky. Said everything that I'm not regularly using, so let's actually go for the jelly squasher. right now. Let me be a little bit. So that I can sync it up with the Circadian so that we can actually have a reference of just about how messed up this groove is. Nailed it. We're at 118 BPM right now. And now if we combine this hat pattern with something straight, then we kind of get the effect of what's going on. That works for me. Let me change something. If I take this one into input 1, and we're going to take bus number C, then I got more drums to play with. That's annoying. Look, that's one of those things right there that I need to address. Stop it. The kick drum. It has a tune on it, and I love tuning kick drums. The button to tune this thing is so tiny that you need a screwdriver to actually play with it. But it definitely does make the sound more interesting to play with. But like, why would you make it so small? I mean, that's the type of button I would only use for a calibration button, but not for something as massively important as actual sound designing. You know, it's... Yeah, that's a bit of a pain. Yeah, that's... Yeah, that's one of those things, just... Yeah, I would call that a design flaw, because you want to play with this, and that's a shame. Oh well. Anyway. I see a comment here about, I often hear people about tuning your drums, but is it really that important? Like, I get that when you make someone some massive 808 type track that you have to tune it, but with just short hits too? Yeah, definitely. It's all those small little variances and everything, like it's there's a couple of ways how you can alter your impact. And a big part of it actually comes down to pitch and decay and noise and stuff like that. But pitch is definitely one of those factors. And especially with things like kick drums, for example, where each and every room that you play in has a different kind of resonant frequency. Like when you, most of the time it's somewhere around the F, at a low F, where the sub really comes through. But you do want to be able to tune it a little bit if there's something weird standing in the room or whatsoever. It's then like, hey, this is where everything just gets you that much more impact. So that's where you really want to be able to tune your drums properly, especially with kick drum things. And outside of that, it can make a tremendous impact when. Like some of the buttons I use the most on my drums are actually the tune buttons when playing live with certain things. Like, it changes the entire texture for you. So it's that's basically what that comes down to. While we're on the subject, how do I tune a snare? It's just noise. Well, it's not just noise. There's a lot of noise on it, but if it were only noise, it wouldn't sound as interesting. And usually there is 2 or more square oscillators or something in the background, giving you a very small tuned rattle going, which is really just a blip, and then the noise kind of dies out on it. But you wouldn't notice it's there until you completely take it away. And that's why tuning snares and stuff like that is really... you can get some big sounds out of it if you mess around with it properly. Let me see. And well, yeah, that's kind of like when you um, when you play with natural drums and stuff like that, they have two membranes basically, and the tighter you set those membranes, the more snap you get out of it, and the looser you set them, the more bottom end and bigness and everything you get out of it. And um, that's basically what drum tuning and stuff like that comes down to. Like the Roots, all those hip hop bangers and everything that you hear there have like these massive sounding, or more have these very tight sounding drums, like the very small piccolo snares and stuff like that, but just really getting that pumping stuff going out. Versus a rock stadium drummer really has like these massive sounding and just cave drums, and there's trolls screaming at you in your face in some elvish language, and that's kind of like the bigger sounding drum stuff. So and tuning things really makes all the difference in the world there. Like if you listen to some noisier stuff like some drum bass things and everything, it's those snares are all super securely tuned to do exactly what you want it to do. So it's so yeah, that's why tuning is important, and that's why I don't like it being so small on this thing. Then again, I do like the sound. That's interesting. Ah, it's this cable. No, it isn't. That's funny. Ah, I get it. I think. So, synth voice wise, I don't think if I plug in a shapeshifter it's going to be interesting. Here's the Raven. Is that the one we're going for? I'm not recording yet, by the way. Should I be? Let's actually record. You're right. Today's a little bit of a different day, isn't it? There we go. Yeah, let's record that. Yep, today is a patch of the rejects. So, let's see. Actually, the first one to go for would be the Res 4, because that one I'm hardly ever using at all. So let me bring this back. See if we can get something interesting out of that. Yeah, the shapeshifter, I was thinking about that too, but I'm not sure if I'll be able to find the sounds that I was... Not sure if I can find some inspiring sounds in it so easily, but let's just... I'm gonna start with the Res 4 for a little bit. That's a coincidence. Oh, there we go. And actually, you can be a part of the drum section here. There we go. No clue how to get it back. Alright. So now the thing is, there it is. Starting to like this drum pattern by now. unexpected. Didn't plan on doing that at all. I'm not even really sure what's happening right now. Over to a completely different groove. That was nice. Yeah, this is kind of exactly what I kind of suspected to happen with the shapeshifter here. Is the shapeshifter is the type of thing that I really want to get lost in, and play around with until I find the perfect dinosaur voice. But it's not the type of thing that I enjoy playing with in a live setup, because there's so many very small sweet spots in there. Nah, this is the type of module that this is not something for me in my live jam patch flow, basically, you know? It's yeah, it's a fantastic module and it's super deep, but it's not something to patch in on the fly. So but yeah, on the positive note, this is turning out to be one of the most minimal patches I've done in a long time. Yeah, and it's with the Black Noir. Cool. Right off the bat, the positive. The Res 4 is one of those things that I'm not using often enough. That's for sure. I mean, there's some very cool sounds coming from this thing. The Jolly Squasher is doing some fantastic work, and the Black Noir is doing what it's is doing exactly what it should be doing, and could be used very well in a particular type of sound. I could use it. The thing is, I would never pick these sounds over what I have going on here, you know? And that's kind of the issue that I'm running into with this, is that I really like it. I think I like it. And I do like this filter in a way, but it's not the drum voice I would use over any of the other stuff. I'm not sure if it would layer well. Maybe that's something I should explore a bit more, really layering my drums in a way. The only thing is that when I, for example, with kick drums or something like that, I don't like layering them, so that would be something to put in a sequential switch mode. Yeah, that could be interesting. Yeah. The Black Noir, it definitely is cool and it has its own character, and that's fantastic for that. And I can see it being used in certain setups. It doesn't work in my standard patch mode as long as I don't layer my slaps, my snares and slaps. As long as I don't layer my my main stuff. That's what it's coming down to. But other than that, it's a nice groovy little box, so that's good. Let's see. Today really has turned out not to be as much about music as about more talking about stuff. So I got 15 minutes. Let's see what everyone is talking about here. I see an opinion here that my setup is gas taken to extremes. Well, in a way, I would not. I don't blame you for that opinion. Actually, you know, it's. I mean, I agree. I basically purchased everything that I thought was shiny and blinky, and I think about 3/4 of the modules that I have I bought without ever hearing them, without ever listening to what they do. Just going like, "Ooh, shiny, this works," and let me play with it. And the positive is that I don't regret a single purchase, because in the end, none of this is disappointed for me, and all of it has ended up being useful. And everything that I've done has found its way into a project one way or another, and has allowed me to do nothing else with my life but patch and play with modules. So, yeah, I get that. I'll own it. I'm the embodiment of gas, and I'm proud of it. Fuck it, you know. I'm having a ton of fun with it, and I mean, by now I have the whole point for me when going so crazy with all these modules so far is not to have a shit ton of modules and have the biggest system in a way, but the main point for me was that I had all the small little combinations that I would possibly ever want and need, you know? And if you look at the regular patchings and stuff like that I do, this is a full it's a full hardware replacement of ever having to work with a computer and ever needing it for anything. And that's that wasn't my intention when I started, but that is exactly what has happened, is that this has replaced my studio 100%, and I couldn't be happier. I mean, like literally, I sold an SSL 9000 desk just to buy more modules. I sold my 909 and my Lindrum and all my shit, and even stopped playing with an actual human orchestra, who were all playing my music, so that I could put more time and energy and effort into this particular instrument. And yeah, that might sound crazy. On the other hand, if I were a piano player and I wanted a grand piano, then I'd be jealous of the people playing modular systems, because this is a fraction of what he would have to spend for a proper Steinway or whatever. So it's I mean, I guess that's just what happens when you play an instrument, is you invest in it. That's exactly what I did. So and yeah, I am super 100% addicted to this instrument. That's definitely true. But I don't think that's a bad thing, personally. I mean, there's worse addictions to have. So, fuck it. Anyway. Yeah, I guess I was just chiming in on the comment that I saw there. But yeah, whatever. Today has not really be a musical patch at all, but I did have the entire system walkthrough, which I've been wanting to do for a long time. I'll probably clip that separately and upload it as a separate piece, because that's something that people were asking for a long time. So so yeah, I'll upload that separately. Anyway, Frank sent me here saying, I do it for fun and I used 60k over only 3 years. Well, yeah, that's kind of what happens, I guess, with this thing. Is yeah. Oh well. See a question here. Do you think it's possible to have an orchestra of people patching modulars? Well, yeah, actually. It's I had a plan for that at some point. And I've done one project that way, where I invited 2 other people who I know really know their way around modular synthesizers. And this was, again, the whole speaker orchestra project. I'm talking about that project so much lately, actually, that it's a shame I never really recorded it, because I was really fond of that project. But that was, well, yeah, that was 64 voices, you know? 64 voices with each having their own individual speaker. And I couldn't play all of them at all. So we designed kind of a patch flow where I had two people controlling 16 voices each, and I controlled the rest basically. And we all dynamically really played everything together, and that was it really worked out very well. It's don't know if anyone here was there last year at the Concertgebouw patch, but that's where we did it kind of in that fashion. And I do have some plans for taking that further into more extremes, but a big part of that is actually down to yeah, it does need the proper feed to play around with it. So that's yeah, it's worth experimenting with, I guess. I see a question here. How are you switching cameras? Where's the automation? I basically set up a macro in the Blackmagic switch, which is just pedaling between the two cameras that I have here. Let me see. Are you excited for the X Series Mark II? Fuck yeah. I mean, knowing Ken, it's probably gonna take another year before everything is done. Anything sooner than that is a bonus, I guess. But I'm super excited for those. That's probably gonna be the coolest. Yeah, that's gonna be one of the coolest additions to the setup by far. So I'm really looking forward to that. But yeah, as I said, it's probably gonna take a very long time before those are done. Let me see. The one that I have here is not the Mini Pro, but it's the. Here, let me just read it for you. I'd have to get under my table, and this is the ATEM Production Studio 4K is what I have here. When I got this, there wasn't a Mini Pro yet, but if the Mini Pro actually does it, what you need is the ATEM software control, and I believe the Mini Pro has that, so you can do it with that. That should be just fine. Anyway, yeah, I'm kind of beat. I mean, I talked so much during this stream. I usually don't talk this much. This was all about that. Oh, I see here the question about the vinyl releases. Any vinyl releases coming up? Yes, vinyl releases are definitely coming up. I would say, given the production times and everything, mark down August. I think that would be the start of the of all the physical vinyl madness. That would give us June and July for pressing everything, and August to get the distribution set up and stuff like that. But it's definitely happening. And there's a ton of it coming, because just now, basically the workflow behind the scenes. Let me just end with that. I have by now I have 63. No, not 63 sessions, but over the past 63 days, I have recorded everything. And right now what I'm doing is I'm listening back to all the jams that have happened and making little check marks at all the jams that I think, like, sweet, this is cool, and grouping them together. And everything that I like together, I send it over to a mixing engineer who basically right now I have a mix engineer booked in for the foreseeable future for 2 days a week, basically, where he's just going to spend all his time on this project, nothing else. And I send him material, he mixes it, and all the finished and mixed tracks, they're sounding awesome, by the way. When I have a vinyl ready, or basically enough ready to send over for one pressing, that's going to the mastering engineer, to the vinyl plant, gets printed and will be sent out. That part takes 8 to 12 weeks. But once but at the same time, on my end, I am planning on having one such project ready every 3 to 6 weeks, which means that after this first one is ready, about 3 weeks later or 4 weeks later, we'll have the second one, and 4 weeks later, we'll have the third one, etc. Because there's so much material right now that I'm really expecting a ton of things to release from this project. And at the same time, I'm still expecting to be recording a lot more. For example, next week at the Viscelord session, or a month later at the second studio session. After this, all the special sessions with extra guests and new musicians to play with and stuff like that. This project is basically all about just doing as much as possible within a studio environment. I'm not even planning on doing any of this. None of these tracks will ever be performed live. But there is there's gonna be a ton of stuff coming from this. So let's just say August, around there, and after that, there's gonna be a ton of fun stuff coming. So yeah, get ready, man. I see a question here about my cases. The aluminum cases are actually made by a good friend of mine, Jan Willem, from Ginkgo Synthese. Ginkgo Synthesis, Jan Willem. He also designed my previous case, and then he did this one, and I think I highly traumatized him with this project because it was a massive undertaking. But I'm super happy with my cases. It's a proper system and a proper setup. So, anyway, I'm just about done for today. Thank you all very much for being here today. This was fun. A little bit different than usual. To all the modular engineers that I may have insulted in my rig walkthrough, I'm terribly sorry in advance. That was a deja vu moment. And I definitely, this was good. Coming Thursday and Saturday are gonna be the last ones out of this lockdown series, and after that we're heading into a completely different direction. So thank you all for tonight, and see you in the Discord. Niels is live. That's good. So let's just head over to Niels if you want to hear some actual music. That's where the good stuff is gonna happen. Yep, that's it. Everyone in Twitch, get ready for the raid train, because that's where we're going. And see you all on Thursday. Cheers. And let's see, I'm gonna send you all there as well. And there we go. Alright guys. Later. See you over at Niels. Cheers.